This has been so amazing. Thank you so much, Tina and Lonnie. Woo! Allison, you added a survey in the chat. You want
Mhm.
to talk about that real quick? I'll look for it again because I had it as well.
Sure. We had come together. There's a lot of projects in the mix, and Ramon talked about the different lanes that are kind of running parallel to just maximize our capacity and work smarter, which we're all really busy humans, and this is not our only thing by any means. So we created a survey for a couple reasons. One, we want to find out where the amazing work is happening. Like I got a call while we were on this by somebody who was like, there is an insane hip hop ed program at Oakland High, right? Like we want to find out where those programs exist in public high schools across the state. So that's one reason that we're collecting information. We want to know what you're doing, how we can pull together a community of practice for hip hop educators that already exist and figure out where our mentors are. Like, who is teaching a classroom program that can support new and upcoming educators in getting mentoring? So that's one reason we created this survey. And the other reason is because, as we mentioned, Ramon and Martha are putting together a large network of hip hop experts from across the world, not just the state, but the world, to build an online community to bring hip hop ed to your classrooms. If you don't feel like you have the self efficacy or the background or the knowledge or the know how to do it alone. And so we've created a survey to gain information so we can do some strategic outreach around what are your needs, how we can best support them, and figure out resources that will be most beneficial.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, we really are trying to, um, like Allison said, really document this movement. And, 10 years ago, I published the first national scan on hip hop education with um, Dr. Pedro Noguera, who is now the dean at USC, the dean of education, and Dr. Edward Fergus. And since then, we haven't seen any other report that talks about hip hop education. And so we want to continue, we want to build upon that first report and really see what's happening across the country, but really specifically look at California and use it again as the model that we can uh, demonstrate how important hip hop is for education, but how impactful it is. We want to see videos. We want to compile all of this information into this community where we could share the resources so we can connect with one another and collaborate, and also create a standard that allows us to get paid what we're worth. And right now, like we really took it there. Like most teaching artists were getting $50 an hour. No, we're asking for $200 an hour because we're worth it. These are people with life experiences that, you know, that they should be paid for what they're worth. And in addition to that, we are asking that teachers or teaching artists get credentialed because you will get more opportunities. And Seb, I know you have your first cohort that is almost done, and actually they graduated from the course, but now they're about to do the practicum. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Um, I mean, not they've graduated from this first chapter only because the training, the 8-part training that I had originally devised, has been completed. But now the next part, like you said, Martha, is for them to actually do some student teaching. They weren't really able to do that during the pandemic, obviously. Um, so now they're going to be going into the classrooms, really putting what they've learned into practice, um, having an opportunity to work with real living students, real humans, right? And to help take what global awareness through hip hop culture is and what hip hop education is as a whole, and to design curriculum based on their own practices, based on their own experiences, based on their own careers, their own art. And of course, moving forward, the hope is that all of these individuals will be placed in teaching positions, will, get hired. So that's the goal. So that's the next step, the second chapter of this training, this pilot program.
Yeah, CTE teachers and teachers in general, as we all know, are not paid that great in the state of California or anywhere else in the country. So starting rates for many CTE teachers are between 32 and 45 an hour. I just didn't want those that are teaching artists on the line that are wanting to get their credentials to think that they're going to start in a classroom for $200 an hour. It just isn't the reality. I wish. Talk to your local unions about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, we're really hoping to build a robust teacher workforce, and that, our teaching artists can partner with CTE programs, and there is funding for work-based learning and such. So, and with a lot of COVID dollars out there right now, and there's a huge increase in funding pots that are actually going to support nonprofits for the first time ever. And there's a program called Schools Not Prisons that will be released in like mid-September, and that program will be available for nonprofits to apply through the CDE to get funding support to partner with schools. And then the other program was just announced, and I think it's about $1 billion that's going to be coming through my office for academic, social, emotional, and there's one more, support for students. Like, it's the most for charities to support public schools. So it's like the most vague, open-ended grant program that I've ever seen. It was like 2 lines in the ed code. So we're in good shape in terms of additional funding to support groups like Hip Hop Congress and others. Anyways, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes. And so, but people are getting paid $200 an hour, and these are as guest speakers, and for people who are developing enrichment programs, after school programs. And actually, there is a special program being developed in Inglewood that I will talk about tomorrow in my panel. But where hip hop dance is being connected to phys ed, so students can gain credit that way. So we're figuring out different ways to increase the pay, and that's one way. But the reality is, yeah, teachers don't get paid good at all. The other thing that we're trying to do is what Rahman has presented, is this idea of creating these after what are the student organizations?
Yeah, youth chapters or student organizations. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we need to do that. This space has been there for a long time. I know Girls Make Beats just started their student organization, and Will I Am has a robotics student organization. So we have a lot to offer the hip hop community, and so we're also like penetrating that space. So if you're interested in creating a student organization, we want to know. And the same thing, if you're interested in teaching, we want to know that as well. So that survey. What else? Are we going to talk about committees?
You mean the committees that we started last year? So we had our first advisory meeting, and then COVID hit. And so we kind of had to take some regrouping time around what our goals were with this. And so Martha and Ramon have been working, she mentioned it, and it's really important part of this work, to really define what are like quality indicators for high quality hip hop ed in classrooms. And all this work is building off the think tanks that have been happening for years and years. And so we're interested in engaging you all. And so I think the best way to kind of get a contact list going is to fill out that survey Martha put down, because we're going to build some emerging surveys around priority areas. Building these standards is one of those priority areas, as well as figuring out research capabilities, mentoring, like we mentioned, who has a high quality program that wants to like mentor potential teachers. So that's to come, I think, as we get our list of stakeholders that want to be involved, and that grows and grows. We'll start building out community of practice meetings for committees to get to work on some of this stuff.
Yes. And by the way, when we're talking about standards, we're talking about hip hop standards, and these will be national standards. The Universal Hip Hop Museum, who is one of our partners, is taking the lead on that with the Hip Hop Education Center. And this is going to be approved by the pioneers of hip hop, our hip hop architects. So there won't be any doubt that this is going to be legit, official, and the standard that we all should be using. Okay, any questions for us? Yes,
Yeah.
Lonnie.
Yeah. I don't want to take us off a track, but my thing is, in my position, in my fights has been, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or anything, but I just want to say this. It's because I seen hip hop come. I'm in a different position of comprehending the flow of conversation per circumstance, per group of people, per year, per weekly, per event. I'm engaged totally in that way. And still I see or wonder, do anyone hear me or it or something in the sort of saying, Lonnie brought up something about the day before hip hop. I think people has learned the word hip hop and it's just feeding off of it. Just feeding themselves just to fat pigs off of it. The respect and response I'm giving right now is my respect for hip hop. If I can respect hip hop totally, in a sense of not regurgitating their stuff that they say is hip hop, then I think every teacher should respect that. To a different extent, everybody's doing good, but I wonder if everyone is conscious what they're saying and what they're doing and why they doing it. I think I keep hearing everyone say they fell in love with hip hop. I keep hearing so many people say that they've been educated by hip hop scholars. Well, if you ain't talk to a nigga that's killing in the middle of him killing and telling him, nigga, don't kill that nigga, nigga, it ain't cool, nigga, come on, man, nigga, he ain't even worth it. Well, you ain't talking to me in hip hop. You feel where I'm going? See, there's in-depths in hip hop. And I'm not putting nobody down because they're not getting in trouble or fighting the fight in the middle of the night at 3 in the morning, in the middle of the streets in the alley, but comes out that alley by 6 in the morning and go home and take a shower and look presentable for his kids. Graduated of the Walden House drug program. Slash still does things every now and then, but got a great background in the community like a real nigga should. So for me, it's hard. I guess I'm kind of like, maybe I might be talking to the wrong people, but I am in a situation where West Coast has its own 2 legs to stand up on, and I don't see West Coastians doing that. We had a curriculum here. We've always had involvement with the schools and everything else. I'm a product of it. I am worried. I'm worried that we're regurgitating just to keep on going and saying we're a part of hip hop and not really doing the ground fundamental research and work. And that could be a lot, yeah, but guess what? It needs to be done. The fabric, there's people that's working in my community right now that's not from my community at all. They're from Virginia. And they working with the mayor. And the mayor is getting slack, like she's getting slapped left and right about how these people don't even know anything about us. They're not even helping us. They're not doing nothing for us. But yet we got to keep on going with the norm, which is there's a program that's on the internet that Ram and them is running that's speaking about hip hop. And I have to engage myself with it without even the responsible respect of saying that this dude has a different, he has the same march, but he's just using a different language maybe. Or
I think it is a language, and that's something that is important to
hip hop
right.
all day, every day. But I do just as much work as any scholar or any person that can turn on their, because a lot of us don't even know how to do this Zoom thing. I'm telling you now, and we deserve the position that you hold right this minute. But because we're not smart enough in a certain area, we can't. But who speaks for us? Well, I dance for us, and I speak for us. That can't be here or get on these things and go sit at a panel and cool down a little bit, put the drink down, and you know you can probably work from the inside than the outside. So I'm in the inside now, and I'm talking to some smart people right now, which makes me feel better because I am now around the smartest people in the world.
But Lonnie, I guess I hear you.
It's not personal.
No. I'm trying to figure out what, if you're asking a question or if you want to add some suggestions on how we should shape this. Like, I'm trying to figure out what you want.
I guess that's my responsible position because I do hear myself. I'm doing both of those things you said, asking and, hoping y'all help me. But do y'all can you feel me? I'm in a position that I'm saying, hey, I can't be called hip hop all day if I'm going to be true to my culture and my teaching. Because I represent the day before hip hop ever came to the West Coast. And some people stare to dig deeper and say that, hold on, we're not going to just go to the Cotton Club and James Brown. Hold on. West Coast really did their thing. From the locking, that's West Coast. It didn't even belong in New York hip hop. That was totally West Coast. Los Angeles, not even Oakland. We know that. But what about the smart people? Are they going to keep on regurgitating, well, Michael Jackson did the moonwalk when he did the damn backslide?
Right.
It's so many smart people seem like when they get, or they don't want to acknowledge that there's another tone here. There's another tone here that keep on trying to fight itself out, which is the inner city black dance culture that does not bar none. So if we say that we're the black culture and we say that we represent the day before hip hop, that means we don't get funding from hip hop, or we don't get the support from hip hop, or we don't get the same acknowledgement from hip hop. We don't get the opportunity to be on the flyer and it says, oh, workshop, Lonnie Green teaching the day before hip hop. Oh, it has to say hip hop. See, now you got me lying to these children. When I start speaking, you put me in that position. I told you the truth, but you told me, you put me in a bracket of lie because you want to get on with the norm. Can my language be added to the bill?
That's a huge part of this conversation because the industry has messed up the terminology for most people who don't come from where you come from, Lon. And even, from just thinking like breakdancing refers to all hip hop dance. I mean, there is so much damage and misinformation that has been done through media, which is why the media literacy part of it. But I would just respond and say that, yes, everything that you represent and that you bring to the table needs to be a part of this hip hop education, because it's not just education about hip hop. It is what happened before hip hop. Like, that's part of it. It's part of a narrative that we have to use. We use the term hip hop because that's the term that everybody recognizes.
Right.
Like a gateway to really going deeper into what happened before and why it happened and all of that. And so just speaking from myself as your student, and I hear you 100%, this is really important that we understand the relationship to how the narrative got messed up. so that we don't repeat the same mistakes and we are not teaching something incorrectly. Like, that is our responsibility. And, you know, that's why your presence here in this, on this panel and in this team is vital to that. That's, you know, so yes, there is a lane for those things to get corrected. And we really have to do that as California. Like, if we're going to go forward and California is the one to jump this off, this hip hop conversation, you know, we got to get our own history straight first. And so that's why it's really important for everybody on this call to listen to the streets and to get this other narrative that nobody was given through the media, and that the work that you've done has allowed us to even get access to. And that's why you're a vital part of this initiative as well. I want you to know that.
Yeah. I actually brought up Ben Caldwell from the Chaos Network. He was in the audience, and he raised his hand. And I know, Tina, you want to say something as well, but I want to bring, I want to allow our elder guru, Ben Caldwell, to say a few words.
Okay. One of the things that hi, you guys, I'm loving this. And thank you, Martha, for the invite and all of the, but I'm digging what Lonnie's saying. And I think that that's part of the beauty of hip hop, is that, and jazz and blues, is that you think you know it until you meet the real motherfuckers, you know? And so, and when you have to go through, like, that's the thing I found with Project Blow. The thing that immunized it from that kind of stuff that Lonnie's talking about, and the reason that LA hip hop is so unique, is because it's aggressed internationally, because everybody comes to LA to handle their business of entertainment. And everybody thinks they know LA, but they don't know the real people here, and how they've had to build a force around them to keep biters from taking their stuff. And the only example I can give that's kind of down Lonnie's trip, how he's talking, because we were given an assignment to bring down gang violence in 15 parks across the city. So they got a number of us to diagnose it. And I just threw all of what Chaos did, all the elements. We went to all the communities, and we were able to bring down the violence to zero just that first year, just out of giving our kids the 5 elements of things to do. And also with the addition of Latin dancing, like salsa, things like that, to satiate those things, but then contextualize the Latin culture within the hip hop culture too. So then it makes it all work, where you can go and do those things. But what I'm leading to is I watched it slowly gets changed into an academic program, where they didn't let the youth and the people who started like the first jerk dancing, they then brought in people who saw it on television, then learned it in college, and then came back to the community that started it and tried to teach them how to do the dance. So by the 5th year, it had dissipated to that point where you had the academics who came in, and they were rightfully so learned, but there's no humbleness on saying, yeah, what is this music that you guys created, and what is happening now? How can I work with you guys and learn something? Because if you're a real teacher, you know you go in to learn. So all of those things, I think, they're just the thing that I would want to underline about what Lonnie said. And that's what I learned with Project Bloat. Part of what was wonderful is that people were afraid to get on the stage unless they had their shit together. And they were afraid to walk up in here if they didn't know Black people, because that's part of what's important. That protects it, you know, the fear that it takes to go into a Black community that Lonnie's talking about. That's not too many people can do that, and the people who can pass through that end up really being pretty hip other culture people to live with, you know, as long as they can go through that ring of fire. But we're going to always keep that there. So Lonnie, it's always going to stay there. No academics are going to take it. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Ben. Tina, you want to turn on your camera real quick so we could hear, so I could bring you to the, yeah.
I think that the point that Lonnie made, is super critical, but also not new in terms of our culture, in terms of Black culture, right? And in terms of history, and in terms of, co-option, be it academia or the music industry or whatever. And so that's why I feel like, us as elders and folks in the community have to be empowered themselves to basically tell folks what they're going to do, not do, what they're going to take, not take. Okay. And to be, honest about, like, this is my stuff here, and own it. Right. And so, and it's also very much, place, space, and time matters. What's happening in LA is going to be very different than what's happening in Newport News, where I grew up. That's very different than happening, where Lonnie is and whatnot. And so we have to understand how experience is at the center of it, and that really the experience is the teacher, right? The experience is the knowledge. And, folks will always come, that's not new. Folks will always come in to, to take over. For example, social media right now, they're making their whole living off of our stories, our narratives, our connections, our, everything. That's how Facebook and all of them, that is their model. It's our stories, it's our connections, it's all, they will do that because of power, right? So understanding power is important. Understanding all of those things are critical, but basically teaching our kids and our communities as power as control will then have them understand, more importantly, what do you want to share and what don't you want to share? And if you're going to share, know that folks are going to take it where they want to take it, but that doesn't have anything to do with you, your value, and what you basically brought to this world. That's all I want to say. I think that folks, want to believe that that's not going to happen. It always happens, right? It needs to be built into strategies, if you will. And I think that's kind of what this group is doing, because you got folks that grew up with hip hop, know that people are coming, that are going to want to bring hip hop programs in and don't have no hip hop people teaching them, right? That is, I think, the purpose of this group, is to make sure that you guys are not taking stuff into schools and whatnot taught by people who took a few workshops and think now that they know something about hip hop and hip hop history and so on. And so I think that I get it. I totally get it. It just has to always, I'm always, like, everything I do, I build in all of those things because I know they're coming. Okay. I know they're coming. Yeah.
Thank you, Tina. And yes, that's the whole point of this group, is to make sure that that doesn't happen, or at least we try to prevent, a mass co-optation. We're not going to allow that. Hell no. That's why we're building the standards, and you're part of that. So don't worry. On that note, any last words before we close up the day? Thank you all for hanging with us for 4 hours. Tomorrow we got some more dope speakers. Ben Nakumara is going to be our keynote. Layla Steinberg keynote. We got a lot of goodies. Rahman said, you want to say anything?
This was beautiful. I'm glad that everybody was here. We were able to pull this off, and that we're pulling it off. And I'm really excited for tomorrow. But this is this was great. I really just want to thank everybody for being here and present, being witness.
Word up. Everybody said it all, so there's nothing else for me to say. It's been said.
Thank you. Well, everyone have a safe Friday night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Peace, y'all.